So we'll have that recorded for those who can't attend. So sounds like a lot of people got out fishing this weekend, and that kind of led me to, I know last week we were talking about the McFly foam, but there's not too many patterns I could think of with that. I was like, how do we fill up an hour with that? But then with our outing to Bromsley Lake, we had a good time. And I remember Roger was, the captain was the hit at that moment. And he's like, I'm running out of captains. He goes, I'm going to go have to tie some more. And that's what got me to thinking, okay, we'll do that. Everyone went fishing. I'm sure we all lost some flies, and now we got to replenish that fly box. So that's where I said, leave your last couple out and maybe we could tie some up tonight. And I'll start, and I know John said he would hop on as well, and anyone else could hop. Mine will be real simple. Basically, this goes back to the Veterans Fish Free at Merrimack. I came up with a hybrid copper john, but it kind of looked like a zebra midge as well, but with green and silver instead of black and silver. So it almost looked like a caddis pupa. I only had one. That's all I had left, and it seemed after an hour and a half, we found the fly. I caught a bunch, then I handed it over to Scott. He caught a few, and then we handed it out to Roger. So it was one fly being shared amongst us, and so that's where I'm like, all right, I got to tie some more. So I'm going to start with that, and then whoever wants to come after that can. Changing over to my camera, and hopefully you could see that. A little bit hard to see. Let's see if I can sneak it in a little bit more, but basically that's what I got. And I'm going to pin myself so those could see it. So it looks like a zebra midge, but it's copper john as well, because it's all I use is thread for the base, and then I use 3 strands of copper wire to create the look.
Hey, Beth, did you put a piece of paper between your sweater and that fly?
For almost a white. Let me see.
Because you get all I got is the bead.
I'm trying to see if I got any paper or anything black. Hang on. Does black help? I don't know if I could keep that up there, but I could try. Yeah, probably green on green wasn't good. I tried to get a solid colored shirt, but that wasn't working. So I'll try to do the black right there.
I think it's just a little bit out of focus.
I don't have focus on this. It's still hoping. I don't know if that's any better.
That's better.
Okay.
That's better.
All right. I'll beg Margie to go let me get that camera that we used for Mayflower, because that was pretty good. So
Honey.
do some begging after this. So again, this is like a copper john. It's got 3 strands of copper. 2 of them are green, 1 is silver. So that's what it looks like at the end, and it was doing good for us. Normally, as I always show you guys, I use the model 28 from Wholesale Fly Company. I got my 10 here. I got 14, 8, and then I even have, what's the size, 16. I can't find my 12, so I have to order more, but right now I'm going to use this Firehole nymph. This is a size 12 that I normally do. I don't know where my other pill bottle with the 12 went, but the slotted beads are from Wholesale again, tungsten, 3mm, which is a 1/8 inch size, in silver. So that is what I've got set up. And that's what I've got there. For thread, I don't even know what this is. This came from one of the post flies that we have. I'm not using any of my good Semperfli or any good thread, because all I'm trying to do is build up a body. And that's where I'm going to start. I did hear a new catchphrase when I've been doing these nymphs, because I've been doing them kind of thick. And then someone used the term thin for the wind. So I've been trying to keep them a little bit thinner. I'm just going to put a thread base down.
What was the catchphrase?
Thin for the wind.
Ah,
So I've always been making my thread jigs or nymphs on the thicker side. And someone's actually showed me where they did one of the thread jigs, and they basically put one wrap up, one wrap down, and that was it. And that's all they used. So he was doing well on it. I'd say about the same. I'm going to tie in this copper first, but then I'll show you a little loss of hand. So once I get these in, then I could show you the spools and show you what I've been using. And again, Merrimack was fishing like Merrimack. It took us a while to figure out. It was easy to figure out the depth, but then after that, it was about an hour and a half of trying to figure out what they were going to hit on. So the thread, or not the thread, the copper I've been using is UTC. Again, I'm using green small. I think if you could find the medium, that would be good as well. And that's what I'll look for tomorrow, because here's my silver and I'm out just about. So that gives me a reason to go visit Tom to get more of this, and I'll look for a medium. Again, this is silver. They got it in gold, red. I've got it in black as well that I've tried, and it all looks pretty good. So I'm gonna just build up a little bit more towards the top, but I'm just gonna keep it thin. Now I'm gonna take all 3 strands, and I'll actually make it a little bit easier for myself. I'm gonna put a half hitch in. Get my thread holder off to the side to kind of help me. Now with this, it doesn't matter if you're starting green, silver, green, silver. You just want to try to get to lay flat. So you're going to kind of give it a little pressure. I'm going to use my rotary device. That first one is always going to be the hardest. I'll try to do that one again. Always trying to keep pressure. And with 3 strands of copper going on, do take your time. But it does look pretty cool when you see it in person. So get towards the end, it kind of helps out a little bit. But again, make sure you keep pressure on all 3, because one will always try to run on you. There, we got that there. So again, the first time it might be a little bit difficult trying to control 3 strands of copper at once. But I'm just going to lock this in place. I'm going to try, got lucky last time, helicopter each one. Nope. Okay, you don't want to work it. I've always had the hardest time with trying to helicopter copper wire. So I will just use my dull scissors. For that, don't use your good ones. I will get my whip finisher. Again, this was a very simple fly, but worked really well. After that, all I did was use Sally Hansen to kind of put a light coat over all of it, especially the threads. Then with that combination of Sally Hansen over the threads, this thing's pretty indestructible as well. So there is this one. I have one other after this, but I don't know if someone wants to jump in real quick, or do you want me to continue on? Either way works. Is someone raring to go? All right, then I'm going to go. Okay. I was talking with Scott about doing a dropper to it, and that's what I'm going to do. Is what I'd like to do is use an indicator, use a nice attractor nymph like this with all the pretty silver and green. It really does flash, but sometimes the trout run up but don't care for that. So talking with people from Bennett, they say they'd like, now again, same hook but smaller size, and this one is the wholesale version but a size 16. And what I'm going to do is a very thin scud on this. At Bennett, I always hear a lot of people saying that they use a scud with a split shot. And I was trying to figure it out, and they finally showed me. I understand what they're doing now is we could make the fly look like a scud if we put a bead on it, but that's going to weigh a whole lot more than the scud, so it doesn't look as natural in the water. So what they do is just tie the material onto it, but then have a split shot about a foot in front of it, so it flutters more in the current, like a scud would be, something very small, like small crustacean, shrimp like, and they get more hits that way because not only does it look like it, it does flutter in the current like it. So what I would use is, again, Copper John hybrid zebra midge I just did, but then I would tie a dropper to this. So that's what I'm going to do. One of the things that Ben Haven said is when he ties it, he puts a hot spot on it. I always talked about the fluorescent pink. So that's what I got, the UTC 140 with the fluorescent pink. And that is going to be my base. I'm just going to put a very thin base on it to get it started. And I'm going to bring it back. For the body, I haven't used this in a while, but I absolutely love it. Is, ooh, let me bring it back this way. The Jamieson's, what's this, Shetland Spindrift. I've got this, this is black, kind of gray color that does really well. I also have a brown that's called Wren. It's like a tan, but when it gets darker, it's a nice tan or a scud color as well. When you cut it, it comes entwined, and you can see it's split, and it's got two wraps together. When you're using this, you just want to take one of them and save the other. And so it's just one thin wrap. You got to be careful with not putting too much on this because it is spun hair. If you pull too much, you will shred it. So get this locked in.
Mick, I've found with Spindrift that after you tie it in, if you spin it, it makes it a little easier to use.
And that's what I'm going to do with this, is try to, as I said, the thin for the wind. I'm going to spin it a little bit just to make it a little bit thinner. I don't like how it's trying to crowd the eye. I will put a half hitch in, lock that in. So as John was saying, let's see that, I will try to spin this. By spinning it, it will tighten it a little bit, make it a little bit more sturdy. And then you can kind of, again, I'm just doing touching wraps on this. Even I was kind of pulling a little bit too much there. Start pulling and shredding. Call that good right there. Again, I'm just making that little hot spot right there. Put just a little bit of Sally Hansen's, just a tiny bit on the thread near the top, just to make sure that locks in.
Hey, Mick, what did you call that fly?
Just a
What's-
stud,
You know what it is?
a sow bug.
No,
That's it.
and I can tell you the history of it, but basically it's Frank Sawyer's killer bug.
Okay,
Yeah, it's exactly the same fly, except he used, or we use now, the oyster color with the spindrift.
I've got that. That's still in, but I do have the oyster. That was the
Yep.
first one I bought. I've not, I haven't, didn't bring it up, but I've got it right behind me. So.
Yeah.
Now, the reason why I was doing two, so I said this would be my dropper off the previous one. As you could see, it's much larger and this would get it down. I have no weight on that. What I would do then is use 7X tippet on this, go about 2 foot out, and then I cut it off there and I keep it straight. Now I can demonstrate what I do on that. So I'm going to just put a bigger hook to demonstrate with some backing on the way. Bigger hook. Now we'll just pretend that we could actually see this. This is something that I told Scott about. And so we're going to go over a couple different, bring this over, knots real quick. The first one that I've been using to actually tie to my hook is it the Davy knot. I know Walt uses it too. I had one give up on me, so I went to the double Davy. See if I could get this in there. Let's try now. Trying to get backing material through a hook. A little bit hard.
Yeah, I have that kind of problem too with the size 22s that I try to tie out. And then first off, I can't see them, and then the tippet's too big to go through the eye. So
Yep, and this is why you almost want to do it at the bench. You know, again, pretend this is your size 16. I'm just putting it a little bit bigger, you know, so you could see it, and then using backing, you could see it. That when you're doing is you go through, you go once through the top, once through the bottom. If you called it quits right there, that would be the Davy knot that Walt uses. I go one more through the top. It's the double Davy. I just cinch it in. And it's a very good knot, and it doesn't take up a whole lot of space with that. So that's what I do with the smaller. I put that in there, and then I wrap it up in foam in there. And so I have this excess here, and that's what I'll tie on. And the way I do that, again, this is kind of hard in the stream. So I'm going to show you here. I'm going to move my vise out a little bit so you can see a little bit better. I don't think you need the foam anymore either. But now I want to tie it to the hopper, and I'm gonna put this back so I could show you how I do it. But again, here's the tag end, and then this would be my dropper or the scud after that. All I want to do is make a loop, just like that. So now you can see I got this end to the smaller fly, and you got the tag on. With that, now you just put your hemostats in there, and you just spin it about 4 or 5 times. And then with the hemostat, you will grab with your tag end and pull it through. Now, pushing this back, wherever you want to put that. So if you want to do the head or the shank, a bit hard because it's, you could then, oh, this doesn't want to play nice because it's backing. But just cinch it up there, and that's how you would tie it on. You could do it in front of the eye. This, unfortunately, or fortunately, I always think you should use barbless hooks. If you try to put it on the bend of the barbless hook, it'd come right off. So you could go right behind the bead head that would lock it in. Again, it wouldn't be so thick. This is just, again, backing. And then that's where you would go, or you could even go in front to the line. So again, trying to tie anything on that size 16, 18 is a little bit too much. So I try to pre-tie it and then do this little trick to get it on once I'm there. Any questions?
Very nice.
All right, that's all I've got. I'll turn it over. I know a couple others had some flies to go. John, did you want to take over now?
Yeah, I'll take a look at something here.
All right.
First off, I apologize for the light coming in and out. Right there is a window. I'm in the basement, and the sun is just about getting down to the point where it's shining through a tree, and the wind is blowing, and so you're getting bright and dark, bright and dark. That and the fact that all my lights blew out today.
Oops.
100-year-old house. Okay. All right. First off, a couple of things that I want to mention. First off, Al Beatty and his wife Gretchen, who I think I've talked about here, is hosting a what they call Zoom on the Fly on Friday nights. Al is going through some processes that he uses to make Zoom presentations. And he's starting off very simple with some fairly easy ways to get started into it. So if anybody's interested in watching, Al said we can invite anybody we want. So if you're interested, I'll go ahead and send out the link to all the program leads in the region tonight. You can ask your program lead for the link. The second thing is Thursday night, we're having our bi-weekly fly tying event. And this week, Larry Dostal will be joining us from Cornhusker Fly Fishers. And he's going to be tying up a couple of different carp flies in preparation for our tournament in August. So, okay.
You're fishing those off of your little, what is it, rod?
Not for carp. I'm pretty gutsy, but not that gutsy. Although I'll tell you, they do make rods that are tenkeras that are big enough to handle carp and bigger fish. So I saw a YouTube video of a guy caught about 100-pound catfish on a tenkara.
Oh.
Actually, it pulled him out into the lake, and he wound up swimming around after the fish until he finally got it in. It was over in Thailand someplace.
They had a movie about that called The Old Man of the Sea.
Yeah, same kind of thing. Anyway, okay. Let me see if I can get my camera to work. I'm also having problems with my darn camera tonight. There we go. Okay. When Mick emailed me, he said we were going to tie flies that really work well. And I finally got a chance to get out and do some fishing last Thursday as a part of the Game and Parks community fishing night. And I got there about an hour early with my Tenkara. And I started fishing in a little pond called Towel Park, which is right in the middle of the city almost. And I started with a Tenkara fly, and that caught one. And then I went to Frank Sawyer's Killer Bug. That caught one. And then I switched to this fly, which has been a standby of mine for the better part of a year and a half, 2 years now. And I used up so many of them, I don't even have one to show you tonight. So I'm going to have to tie it to show you what it looks like. But it's a yellow gurgler. A lot of you have probably tied them in the past, so you know what I'm talking about. But the material is pretty straightforward. I tie this on 10s, 12s, and 14 wet fly hooks or dry fly hooks. It's supposed to sit on the surface or slightly below in the film. I use the hobby foam that you get in, here, let me go back to the other camera. So you can see this a little bit better. I'm switching between OBS and, there we go. Okay, basically this is you've probably all seen this before. Amy's talked about it a lot, and we've all talked about it. This is not the kind with the sticky back. This is just a plain yellow foam, about 2 millimeters. And I cut it into strips like this, that with a width just about the size of the gap in the hook. Okay. The other thing that I use are hackle. Okay, here's one I'm going to use tonight. This is just a plain old saddle hackle grizzly. I've also used, in fact, the ones I used up Thursday were just a plain old cheapy black hackle that I picked up, but don't even know where I got it. So, okay, so with that all having been said, let's go ahead and see what we can do here. There we go. All right, the thread I use tonight is sewing thread. Sorry, I didn't have any yellow fly tying thread, so I raided my wife's sewing box. And this works pretty good. I've used it on other flies. Okay, so I'm just going to start a little bit of a thread up here, about an eye width behind the eye. And this is a very simple fly. In fact, it's almost so simple that I'm thinking seriously about replacing the San Juan worm as the beginning fly for our tying sessions. First thing I do is, let's see, can you see that? Here, there. I cut the end of the foam to a point. That makes it a little easier to put on. And I just tie that in on top of the hook is where it goes. Now it's going to want to tend to roll on you, so I like to hold it good and tight. And I wrap it back to about the barb of the hook, possibly a little bit beyond. Then I'm going to bring my thread forward to about the halfway point on the hook. I'm going to stop it right there. Then I'm going to take my hackle and I'm going to prepare it like we prepare all hackle. Let's strip off some of these fibers. There we go. So that it looks like that. Let's see, hold the other way. Okay, I'm going to tie this with the bend facing the hook. That will force my hackle fibers to kind of point backwards, like a soft hackle fly. Now, when I tie in my hackle, one of the things I've found that, especially with these older hackles that I use, they tend to want to twist when you start tying them. I've found that if I leave just a little bit of stem showing before I start wrapping, that helps keep it stable. So I'll tie it in and then bring the thread forward to about the eye of the hook. And I'll grab it with my hackle pliers. I don't need a lot of hackle on this. And I'm not sure what the fish see in the hackle, but it seems to make them want to bite this a little bit more than if I make them without half. And by the way, I did try to do these with a tail. Because a lot of people said, hey, put a tail on it. It'll really work great. And I did. And I watched fish come up to the tail and turn away. They just did not like that tail at all. Oh, like I said, these things, they're old and they're brittle, so you got to be kind of careful with them. And try this again. 1, 2, okay. Come on. It'll be one of those nights, isn't it? There we go. I'm going to bring my thread forward. Now, bring your foam over the top, like that. And I'm going to put a couple of really tight wraps on this. I'm going to make sure it stays on the top. Couple in front. There we go. Oops, sorry about that. Didn't mean to hit the camera. Now I'm going to cut this foam at a V. Like that. See that? I'm going to pull that V up, and that triangle up, and I'm going to put a head on it now. Okay. And half hitch. And one more. I'm putting a half hitch on it because I forgot my whip finish tool. And I haven't done them by hand in so long, I don't think I remember how. And there is a simple yellow gurgler. You can tie a dozen of them in no time at all. And for the last 2 or 3 years that I've been using it, the fish look at this like it's candy. I don't understand it. In fact, Thursday night when I put this on, there was a period of time when I was catching a fish on every single cast. I was catching bluegill that were 6, 8, and 9 inches long, and then I caught 3 crappie that were pretty good size. So I've caught crappie, bluegill, bass. I haven't caught any catfish on it yet, but and since it does float or just a little bit in the foam, when they hit it, they're coming up for it. It's almost like fishing a dry fly for trout. I know, Amy, it's not quite, but it's close. So that's it. That's the only fly I got tonight.
That looks good. That would do good on bluegill.
Oh yeah, it does. It's great on bluegill.
I like that fly. I will tell you that, yeah, any color variation will work. And so if you're going low light and you need something else, more orange, anything else that you can spot in the water, it's a fast take when they come up. And then it's pretty much, it's the next step down from a hopper. It's an ant. I mean, it's all about the presentation. And so even with the grizzly underneath with that hackle, but that grizzly, you're creating that leggy part that John was talking about in the foam around that surface. And it spreads out. It looks like a bug into duress. So it's always a winner. It is, and any variation, have fun with it. If you want green, if you want orange, the color on the top is irrelevant. So,
Good,
but
though.
nice.
All right, thanks, John. Anyone else?
This weekend, I was watching a documentary on Iowa, and they were talking about the ice mounts up there and the streams that were spring fed and were full of trout in Iowa. Along the Mississippi River.
Yeah, it's called the Driftless area, Carl, or Walt, I'm sorry. It's one of the best fly fishing trout waters in this part of the country. It's up in northeast Iowa, northwest Illinois, southwest Wisconsin, and southeast Minnesota. That whole 4 states area up there. That's where the glacier didn't go
Right,
back 10,000 years ago.
right.
And it's amazing. The first time I was up there, it reminded me of the same formations I saw when I was in Vietnam. It reminded me a lot of some of the spring creeks in New York. So it's a great place to go.
Is there fishing restrictions on streams? I mean,
There's a lot of it that's privately owned, but like Iowa DNR does, like a lot of states do, they purchase some access points. And you can gain access to the creeks. And there's thousands of creeks up there. And Iowa is fantastic with their public access. I mean, in fact, you go to Decorah, Iowa, and you stop at any of the campsites, and you'll be able to pick up booklets that describe the driftless area in detail. And with maps and everything else, you can drive right through these spots and go down to the creek and start fishing. And I've found that Copper Johns work really, really well. Zebra midges, not too bad, but just about anything that works in Missouri will work in the driftless area. You know, sizes 10s down to about 14s and 16s I've found. But Amy, you've been up there, haven't you?
I've not been to that area, but I know well of it. One of the things too, as far as, yes, there's a lot of land access and mostly, just making sure you're in the right place where you're supposed to be. You stalk, right? You cannot come stomping up, and it is not a trout park. You need to be a little bit more quiet on that side of it. And this time of year, there's some nasty yellow flower
Yes, there is.
that if you
Poison.
touch,
It is poison.
you will be so sorry that you did. So the recommendation, if you're thinking of going to the Driftless, is there are a few fly shops up there, and the guide, it's a whole different industry. It's very, very select. It's not a dime a dozen. It's not Arkansas. No offense to anybody on here from Arkansas, but the joke is that, yeah. So anyway, up in the Driftless area, it's very specific. It's a lot more like Western fishing on that side. As far as you want to get someone who knows. And again, it's not just, it's that little skinny 6-foot creek that there's a 20-inch trout in there.
And they're there.
Yeah.
They're great for Tenkara fishing, by the way. But I've never used a Tenkara up there, so I always use a little 6-foot 3-weight when I go up.
I don't know. Look out for that yellow thistle, whatever that thing is.
It's called
Terrified
wild
bees,
asparagus.
Whatever it is.
Wild asparagus, yes. And it looks just like an asparagus plant. And you walk up to it and say, oh, what a pretty flower. Do not touch it. Wear long sleeve shirts and long pants when you're walking around up there, because the stuff is actually deadly, I've been told. This can kill you.
Oh, yeah.
So
It's, we think of poison ivy here and we see that, leaves of 3, and we see all that stuff. That stuff it's sneaky. But especially when you're cutting through on properties, that's a big thing. And especially this time of year, so anyway, it's gorgeous area. I had the pleasure of, I was in a meeting and I was able to attend a presentation by 2 guides who were out of the Driftless area. I could have sat there all day looking at their pictures. All I remember of it, don't touch those flowers. I'm not kidding.
I've never had a guide up there, but in fact, most of the fly shops are more than happy to, like any fly shop, tell you exactly what to use and where to go. And you know what? I mean, I've been in a lot of fly shops, and they give you the same information, and the flies never seem to work, or I'm not presenting them right. But when I went up there, they told me what to use, how to fish it, and where to go. And by God, they were right. And I caught tons of fish up there. So,
So do you have to sneak up on the ground to the bank and cast?
yeah.
that way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
you got to remember, they're spring creeks, they're spring-fed creeks, they're crystal clear water. And those trout, except for the rainbows, they do stock the rainbows, but the browns in there are all wild population. And they hear you coming from about a mile away if you're boonie stomping. So yeah, walk softly and carry a big fly rod.
And if you want some practice going up, go fish Blue Springs. For anybody here in Missouri, go fish Blue Springs because it gets that very narrow 5 foot. Just it's gorgeous, just absolutely gorgeous area. But yeah, it's a little bit on the technical side. Big, long 4 foot or 4-weight 10-foot rod. If you're not using your Tenkara, big 10-foot rod.
You better be
you
able to
just,
cast that 6 foot out there about 40 feet. Otherwise, you're not going to get there.
Yeah. Well, and it's tall, and right now, I mean, especially with anything that we are all fishing, you're starting to get your cattails up. You're starting to get lily pads, other than Walt's story. But you're starting to get a lot of growth on top. Accuracy is it's a make or break on your day. But up there, I would research it. I mean, it's gorgeous. It's well worth the drive and well worth seeing everything. And again, it's the most amazing geological history on what we have and how that all the plate and how everything and it all just formed. So if you're interested in that stuff, check it out.
So that's
Amy,
about a
it's
5-hour drive,
Spots up there.
about a
That's right.
5-hour drive from here, isn't it?
I would say 5 to 8.5. I mean, it depends on what part of the Driftless you're going to.
Is it that big of an area?
Oh yeah,
Huge.
yeah, it's huge. It's
Yep.
huge. I was up there and I spent 2 days up there and I only covered 3 creeks in 2 days. And there's the nice thing about it is they've got all kinds of campsites over there, and I've always gone up and tented, and it's great.
And Mike Swanson has gone up there. I think he went up last year or 2 years ago. And I think he went up this year in May, and was able to find almost free. I mean, camping and then also access. Don't know how he fished, but got to do all that. And it's primitive. You set up your tent. I don't know what it looks like as far as there's not much around. It's kind of the Badlands. It's a Badlands carried up, right?
I usually at the core, there's a couple of campsites there that I like to stay at and then drive up to the Driftless, but there are a couple of unofficial campsites up on the Driftless creeks themselves, and you can just throw a tent up there. But and I always get a little bit nervous about going. I saw Deliverance, so.
Oh, good till the Banjo start playing.
Ding, 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 ding.
Yeah.
The other thing is we do have programs all throughout that area as far as Project Healing Waters program. So it is something, if you're planning on going up that way, I'm thinking those folks know how to fish that area.
Yes, they do.
And we have Des Moines, Iowa. Dale is awesome. And then also Toma, Wisconsin just opened,
Yep.
which sits almost, you have the cutoff point, and right outside of Toma is gorgeous. So anyway, back to whatever else you guys want to talk about, other than we just spent a lot of time on the Driftless.
No, that sounds good, because like you said, Mike Swanson talked about it, and he wants to do, a little trip out there, so not sure if that'll happen or not, but sounded interesting.
If you decide to go and it's not September or August, let me know. I'll meet you up there.
Okay.
Why don't we get a group?
Yeah.
Start planning.
There
a
you go.
group.
We didn't hear you, Walt.
I said, let's start planning a group to go up there in a convoy.
All right. Talk to your program lead. No, I'm
Yep,
kidding.
yeah, talk to me.
Nick is going to be like, I will not be on this call again. Even though we go with it. everything. I'm like, I don't know. Check with Mick.
No, it's,
Nick, we can work it out, right?
we can, we'll make it work. You know, we just, that, like Amy said, that will take some planning, but it's doable. You know, we just got to plan it out. You know, I need to know who's interested so we could start working on it.
Yep.
Because I know, like I said, Mike wants to bring some of the people up from Leavenworth, so we can make a big outing of it. All right, well, before we go, Scott, what did you use to catch that catfish?
I don't know exactly. It was whatever the last lure I used at Brummel's stick was.
Okay.
Was that a captain?
I think it was a shiny one, right? Because I think that was
Yeah.
Jim Saraceno's Christmas
think you
tree.
put a Christmas tree on, yeah.
It was a
Yeah, that's
Christmas
it.
tree.
That was so awesome. It surprised the heck out of you, didn't it?
Oh my God, yeah.
I'm sure
Hey,
that's fun.
I think catfish will hit just about anything you put in front of them. I nailed a 10-pounder on about a size 10 green crystal chenille something or other that I tied up and there wasn't even a name for it. And it was my last cast and he slammed that thing and I didn't know what I had.
There-
But it was
He hit hard. I thought it was a bass.
That's what I thought too. Yeah, that's what I thought.
So what'd you do when you started seeing that it wasn't a bass and it wasn't a bluegill? What'd you start doing? Like yelling?
I went to go get my
or like
proved it to get caught.
I yelled at the guy
or-
who was with me. I said, grab the camera because nobody's going to believe I caught this on a fly rod.
Right, exactly.
That's there, and I can't stand to touch them. I don't know what it is with catfish.
They feel like a snake. That's what it is.
Oh, no, it's like a slug.
Yeah,
It's
yeah.
like a slug. And
Yeah.
then, yeah, I'm sorry, they're whisker things that you're supposed to be. It's like Terry last year. Last year when Terry and I were catching gar, and I'm thinking, I don't know. All I've ever been taught is that if you catch a gar, you have to have leather gloves.
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
bringing
Amy,
a
you
gar
like
in
your
and like,
catfish breaded, right?
They
Deep
do
fried.
taste good.
Kitty,
well-
kitty.
Well, congratulations. It is. And I mean, I think the more the mystery of like what's in the water around us is pretty amazing. Makes a fun of it, right? It's every
Oh, yeah.
time getting out there and saying it's all opportunity. It's all opportunity
Yep,
just laying in front of us.
Yep.
And that's a part too is, I don't know. And the same water never, ever, ever fishes the same.
correct.
You can be like, well, this worked yesterday. I got it. I got it. I'm all that.
Yeah.
And then you get out there and you get schooled until you're like digging in the bottom going, what else can I use? So
Up on the verdigris here I've been on the verdigris here in Nebraska, and one day I'll use a copper john and catch a fish on just about every cast. The next day I'll be up there and I can't buy a fish on a copper john. So
Nope.
it's great. Yeah. And that's what makes it so exciting and so much fun. You know, it's a contest of minds between you and the fish, you know, and I think the fish have a better mind than I do most of the time, which isn't saying a whole lot, but hey.
It's all, yeah. We won't go there.
We
But
did learn from that outing with Scott and Mick at that lake, though, is when you don't really know a particular lake or whatever, it's like to fish on along it, because you don't know when you're going to find that hidden hole or whatever else where they're actually, tucking away and just waiting for you. You could be fishing just, 10 yards off to one side and sit there all day and catch nothing. If you just moved on along the bank, slowly.
That's the way the bluegill spawn has been here in Nebraska. You could fish in one spot for 15 or 20 minutes and not even see a fish, move 10 feet to the left or right and catch a fish on every cast. It's just been crazy this year.
Work
That
the
was
clock,
Roger. Yep.
right? Work
Yeah.
the clock.
Yep, absolutely.
Yep. And I think that's the other thing too, is that it's, and the more you're out, the more you gain the experience. Because every situation, all of a sudden you're like, okay, I remember this backwind and I remember when I tried this. You know, it all goes to the experience on it, that you get out there and you're kind of confident in some things, but that's the best part of the puzzle is.
How many of you
just
remember
trying
the
to
first
figure it
bass
out.
you ever caught? Any of you remember the first bass you ever caught?
On a fly?
No, just first bass, period.
Yeah.
Trying to think.
On a fly I do, because it was a 5 weight and I was screaming, and it was a 13-pound bass.
That's
I
big.
was- I was about 13 and we were camping and I was using my father's flatfish and he didn't know I had it. And it was orange and black and I threw that thing out and that largemouth smacked the ever loving you know what out of that thing. And I'll never forget it, because going through my mind all the time is what happens if this is a trophy bass, you know. And my sister was with me and she said, you need some help. And a guy across the creek said, you want some help? And I said, no, I've got it. And my reel jammed and I started hand lining it in. That memory is as fresh in my head as it was the day I got it.
And I think again, at every time you can get out. So it's just something where you look at it and kind of go, okay, where would I go? Think like a fish. I know it sounds like cliche, but today, bright, sunny, we're getting hot, you know, different things. Where would I go? I'd go in the shade. I'd go over here. I have found the most amazing fish recently in a lot of undercuts. And so it's kind of funny because we have somebody who's going to a casting competition. Apparently this guy can just nail it on a bow cast.
Oh,
Right.
yeah.
And then we had all these technical questions going, is bow cast legal? Not in there. We don't talk about casting styles, right? Well, and I'm thinking, I better practice this because I'm not competing against this guy, but I want to learn, right? I want to be able to do that because every time I've ever tried to bow cast, I come out with bloody thumbs. It's
Yeah.
horrible.
Oh,
I don't know
yeah.
how to do it. I can't relax enough. I can bow shoot, but I can't do this with a bow, with a fly rod. Well, anyway.
Bow and arrow cast is
Practice.
huge in the Tinkera world. No, seriously, it is, because the rods are so long. You get into some of these smaller streams and everything, you can't cast. So these guys use bow and arrows and they get really good at it.
I'm pretty sure there's not a Takara rod coming up in Bozeman when we're there in July, but I'll keep an eye out for it. I'll just keep an eye out for it for you, John.
No, I don't think FFI would let you bring one.
I don't know. We got some rules coming, but
Yeah.
it is fun to get out there. And so today I was like, I wonder if I can do this. But every time you're out there, it's not about the fish. If you catch one fish, you're not shut out. The rest of the time is all practice.
Yep.
It's all
Yep.
practice. Can I cast under this bush? Can I do this? Can I do this? And then damn, it's just all good.
Yeah.
And on that one, it is time for me to eat. I'm
Yep.
sunburned. I had the hat on and every layer, and I'm like, I just want the couch. So anyway, it was great. Thanks, Mick. Sorry to
Welcome.
hijack again, as always. What's our topic next week?
I'll have to think of something unless someone else
Oh,
has.
wait. Oh, it's not gonna be because you.
We're gonna
Oh,
be,
no.
yeah. You may
We're in
not see
person.
us. Yeah, we're in person. So basically it's bring your fly gear or your fly tie, bring your vise and stuff. And basically we'll be tying, and then Scott has his vise and everything. So we'll teach him how to start tying flies. So come on out.
Why don't you do a hybrid? Why don't you do a hybrid, Mick?
I'm thinking about that. I don't know what Wi-Fi they have or anything, but I will bring some of my stuff to see if I could do a hybrid where we could record while we're there.
Well, you got a cell phone, right?
I got a cell phone, so I guess I
You've
could
got a
make it
hotspot, so you can bring your laptop and your cell phone and put the hotspot in and access it with your laptop and then go from there.
Yep.
It's easy.
Go ahead and drive on down, John. you can help us next week.
Well, I tell you what, I'm in the process of working with Al Beatty. I'm writing a book on how to set up Zoom, not a book, but a pamphlet on how to use Zoom and do different things with it. We're finding out some really interesting and fun things to do that we didn't know about before.
That's cool.
That'd be awesome. We could use all the help. And I think, first off, we love it when everybody joins from out of state
Yeah,
and out of the area. Yeah, and I think it's just a way to stay connected, especially if you have nothing going on. You're like, well, I want to see what they're doing. So anyway, we'll figure it out. But yeah, between computers and cell phones now, we'll get it going.
Yeah,
yeah,
there's nothing
Yeah,
you can't do. There's
I'm
nothing.
like in your free time after stripping the floors and doing all your other stuff, John,
Yeah.
just drive on down here. Not a deal, right?
You know how badly I want to come down and go fishing down there, either there or the White River in Arkansas.
that's where.
Yeah, I can't get away. It's not even the cost of gas. It's just, yeah.
Yeah, it's just, well, we'll figure that out. But anyway, good to see everybody this week.
Yep.
And if nothing else, I mean, I'm happy to, I'll try to help on the tech side next week on Monday. I don't think at this point, I'm not moving anywhere.
You're
Always
welcome to
undetermined,
show up.
but
We'll have a good time. I'll make sure I bring some kind of snacks. We'll have a good time.
And Mick, if you
All right.
want to, I'll go ahead and, I've got a Zoom account. We can go ahead and I can start a meeting for you if you'd like, and we can do some sort of a Zoom hybrid kind of thing, and everybody else can join that's not down there tying.
Yep. I'll get
So-
with you on that.
Okay,
All right, everyone. Thank you. And we'll see some of you next week. If not, we'll see you on the stream soon. So take care.
Okay.
Be well. We'll talk to you soon.
tight lines, everyone.
Yep.
Everybody be well.
See you, everybody.
Thanks,
What's that?
everybody. Thanks, Mick.
Hey, Mick, where are we going next week?
It's VFW post up. Hold on. Let me.
You're gonna text it